Hello everyone, let's continue on our user management project. So far, last week we did create a user management project, installed object list view, created some mock user, and this is the view we got. Today, we're going to expand on this project and then add a couple of new features. So the new features we'll be doing today will be creating a login screen, added username password validation, and then we will create a new screen to add update user. Now let's create our login view. So I'll create a directory called views first to organize all the views. Inside this we will create a Windows Forms class. So let's call it login. Let's go to the designer of this login, and our designer looks like this. Let me bring up the designer toolbox, and then these are all the controls available for us. So let's search for label to start with. So a label somewhere here, and then we will change a couple of properties of the label. First, let's make it auto size of true, and then change the text of the label to be username. Secondly, we'll copy this label, paste it, and then we'll call it password. Now, next we need is a text box. Well, let's grab one text box from here, put it there. Let's increase the width a little bit, and then we will name this text box txt username. Let's copy the same text box, and then we will call it password. So it's called txt password. And then we want this text box to not display the plain text but display some password characters. So we will change the password character to be a star. Next we need is a button. We'll get that button, put it here. Now give it a name of btn login, and then change the text of the button to be login. And then that's all. Our login form is basically ready. Now we will add a click event to this login button. So let's double click. Let me hide that. So our button click is there. What I'll do is I'll like my method name to start with capital letters. So I'll just do a refactoring on the method and something like this. So button click. Next, what we will do is whenever our program runs, we want the program to start from the login screen. Once user provides the correct username and password, then only we will let users see the form 1. So to do that, we will open the program.cs, and instead of running new form 1, we'll be running new login. Let's go to views, login. So we already have a button login. Before we do anything, we want to validate if our form is valid or not. So we'll create a method called private pool is form valid. Okay, this method is going to validate both username and password. So instead of doing all the validation inside this one method, I'm going to create a couple of new methods. Private pool is username valid, return true by default, and then this is going to do is username valid. Okay, doesn't do anything at the moment, but we will write code to handle the validation. So a couple of validations rules. Username can't be blank or null. It cannot exceed 20 characters. So basically these are our rules for now, and then if you want more rules, then this is the place you can do your validation. So first let's handle this. If string is null or empty, text username.text, this is the part where it's not going to be valid, so return false. Just returning false is not going to help us. We want to display some sort of message to the user. So we will be creating some base methods. So let me go and create a base view. You'll see what we're trying to achieve later on. So I'll create a direct class called base form for now. This is a base form which just inherits from form, and it will have a couple of helper methods. Internal void display information message, messageBox.show, and then it will take a message, it will take a title, and by default title is going to be information, and message, we need a message, so it will do this, and title will have a OK button, and then we'll call it an icon of information. Let's save that. Now we will create a couple of helper methods for the error and warning. So let's copy that. Again, copy that. We'll call it display warning. So rename it to be warning. And then give it a default title of warning. And then change the icon to be warning. Similarly, we will call it error message. Then title is going to be error. And then we will change it to be error. Okay, now let's go back to the login screen, and instead of inheriting it from the form, it will inherit now from base form. So we have not changed anything because base form itself inherits from the form, so the login screen should work. Now what we will do is we'll display warning message saying please enter username, and then we will do text username dot focus so that user can retype again. Next we will do is if username dot text is greater than 20, then we want to throw an error. So warning display warning message username cannot be greater than 20 characters, and then return false. We want to do the same thing, text username dot focus. Now this is not ideal where you are checking for the length greater than 20. Ideally you would want user to stop typing more than 20 characters, but we'll look into that later on. Now next thing we want to do is validate the password field. So let's get a method private pool is password field. Let's type password field valid. Yes, by default it's valid. Now if so, a couple of validation rules. Password cannot be blank, and password needs to be greater than 4 characters. So these are the basic validations, but in the production this will be a little bit complicated than this. So let's check for the blank. If is null or empty txt password.text, then we want to complain to the user saying you have not provided a password. So txt password now display warning message saying please enter a password. We want to return false, our form is not valid, and then we want to focus back onto password dot focus. Next, to validate this, if password dot text dot length is less than 5. Then we want to complain again. Display warning message. Password should be greater than 4 characters. And we want to say return false, and then txt password dot focus. Okay, these are a couple of validations before you can even check for the username and password. So let's rename this method to call username field valid. So is form valid is not now going to do this. It wants is password valid. Now on clicking of the button, we want to do if is form not valid, then we want to return back. Otherwise, we want to check for the username and password. In real life scenario, you will check the username and password from a DB. But for now, we will just be checking a hard-coded username and password. So if text username dot text dot to lore equal ABCDEF and our strong password text password dot text equal 1 2 3 4 5, we will say you are a valid user. So next thing we want to do is a display our form 1. Otherwise, we want to complain display error message invalid username or password. We do not want to say what is invalid, but we'll just say something is invalid. Next we want to do is form 1 equals new form 1, and then we'll display form 1 dot show, and we want to hide ourselves this dot hide. Now let's run the project, see what it looks like. So we should be seeing our login screen by default, and then we will test what the behavior looks like. It's initializing the debugger at the moment, and there you go, we are seeing the login screen. If you do click on the login, it's going to do our validation. So for now, let's give it ABCDEF and then leave the password field blank. And it will say please enter a password, just give it 1 2 3 4, and then yeah, that's another validation. So let's give it 5 as well. Click on login, and this user can see the user management, users list, and then can do manipulation. So this is for today. So we created a login screen and then successfully validated a user to display the user management tab.